Yes, I have. Oh.
That should work. Try it.
Okay.
Just check it. Oh, but that's making red.
It's the. Okay. Okay.
I'll replace the.
Thank you so much, Steve, for that beautiful welcoming music. And thank you all for being here. Welcome to Interfaith, and I'm very happy to welcome you here today and to explore our service themes and wonderful traditions with our friend and guest and congregant Max Lewis. And you will be hearing more from him in a bit. First, I'm going to ring the bell to officially start the program. I know I don't do it as loud as Jamal does, 'cause I don't know if that carries through, but we know it's there. And also, I'd like to, again, thank you for being here and ask for, I know that Steve is going to welcome our ancestors and honor our First Peoples this morning, which is part of our tradition every morning. And as you noticed, I have lit the World Peace candles and opened the altar so we can see and feel the presence of the holy books of many different spiritual traditions that inform and inspire. Do you help us by welcoming in our ancestors and honoring? You want to take this? You want to hold this? You want to step up?
Seem to be all thumbs today. I'd like to take a moment to welcome all of our ancestors, those biological ancestors that we have, also our spiritual ancestors. Okay. I'd also like to welcome our spiritual ancestors, including all of those Okay. Okay. I'll eat the mic. Okay. So I'd like to welcome our spiritual ancestors, including all of those who have written our books, and all the words that we share during our ceremonies and our rituals. I'd also like to welcome our more than human ancestors who have dwelled on this land, such as trees and the Salish Sea region and everything that supports us here. As a community, we wish to acknowledge that this land that we reside on is the traditional but stolen and occupied land of the Amish and the Shosho people in this area of Ballard. We are grateful to them as the rightful and historical stewards of this land. They've taken such good care of it, and we pray that we learn how to take as good care of this land as they have in the past. We have much that we can learn from them. We acknowledge the burdens they carry due to ongoing colonialism. We are also grateful to the land itself, to cedar, deer, salmon, who nourish this land and give us such a wonderful home to live in. We apologize to them all for any injustice that we may have enacted upon them. Recognize those Black, brown, Asian, and Indigenous peoples who were often enslaved, exploited, or unpaid, and who continue to face racism and discrimination. They require liberation and reparation in the name of healing, equity, and just pray. One day, may we see ourselves as one and treat all beings as our sisters and brothers. Amen.
Thank you, Steve. I'm going to stand up here because I know I can't. I'm kind of short compared to some of you guys. Again, my name is Sally Jo. Welcome, and I would like to do a. Again, my name is Sally Jo. Welcome, and I would like to do a reading, share something for you all. A candle here that we specifically light every Sunday to honor the divine feminine energy in the world, in the universe, in ourselves, in each other, and in every being and aspects of our human world. We look for balance between the divine masculine and the divine feminine, and just mystery, right? Which we like to think of it as not having a specific gender. So I'm going to read a little bit about Tara, the Savioress, who's one of the symbols of the divine feminine. In Savioress is one of the two most popular meditational deities of Tibet. One seldom finds a Tibetan shrine that lacks her icon. She is widely prayed to and contemplated by practitioners of every level and is one of the best known and most widely used. She is both an advanced bodhisattva, a person who aspires to enlightenment, but whose first priority is helping other people, and a Buddha, Like all such beings, she was once an ordinary human who sought enlightenment and practiced the various disciplines for eons. It is said that many eons ago, a princess named Moon of Wisdom made extensive offering to the Buddha for a long time. Finally, bodhicitta, the desire for enlightenment, if you pray that your deeds accord with the teachings, then on that account you will change your form to that of a man, as is befitting. After a long discussion, she told them, in this life there is no such distinction as male and female, and therefore attachment to ideas of male and female. Weak-minded worldlings are always deluded by this, unquote. Then she vowed, quote, there are many who wish to gain enlightenment in a man's form, and there are but few who wish to work for the welfare of sentient beings in a female form. Work for the welfare of poetry praises Tara for saving people from many dangers, fire, water, bandits, wild animals, etc. She is very accessible, helping people with everyday worries, not confining her help to so-called spiritual matters. Thank you. And this reading was adapted from Hierarchy by Rita M. Gross. So at this time, co-founder and co-minister Jamal, our congregant / guest speaker, which embarrasses him, so let's just say our friend Max.
Thank you so much, Sister Sally Jo. It gives me great joy and honor to welcome our speaker, Max Lewis. In fact, whenever I see Brother Max and Sister Kathy, by the way, they always come in a pair. They are, and they're deeply devoted to each other, and they work very closely with each other, actually. So whenever I see them, and I'm being very sincere and humble, my heart leaps with joy, because my heart knows that these two people are really humble, sincere, dedicated servants of service. And, you know, they're so eager to be of justice to for the poor, the marginalized, the ones who need help. So I always think in terms of, so when I look at this wonderful couple here, I'm reminded of that wonderful saying of the Prophet Muhammad, who said, if kindness, compassion, bless you, gentleness was a thing of the created world, there's nothing in the world that could be more beautiful than that. And the other verse which splashes in my heart when I meet this wonderful couple is that verse from the Quran that says, be just. Be just. This is closest to God consciousness. So to this beautiful couple, let's give it.
I deeply admired Archbishop Hunthausen. When he was in Montana, he lived in a basement rather than in the bishop's mansion. He declined to pay the portion of his taxes that went for war. He cleaned a poor family's toilet in his bishop's garb so that they wouldn't get evicted again. I followed him in so that they wouldn't get evicted again. I followed him in helping poor people and working for socialist groups. When I got to tell him how much influence he'd had on me, he's such a humble person, there were tears coming down his cheeks. I'm a steering committee member and counselor for a Mennonite counter-recruiting project, Peaceful Options for Training and Careers, POTC. Painfully aware that ROTC goes into June. We know that young people are not mature enough to fully grasp the physical and psychological injuries that military involvement causes. So we offer them free counseling about service and training opportunities and scholarships. My spiritual practices involve spiritual reading, attendance here, and attending and volunteering at St. James Cathedral with Kathy. Except for reading headlines through gritted teeth, all of my other reading is nonviolent spirituality, Sufism, Jainism, Buddhism, and Christian pacifism. I am drawn to those readings because of their refusal to harm anyone. They have buoyed me after years of swimming upstream. It's good not to feel alone. Jains wear masks so as not to kill insects by breathing them in. Buddhism is the most nonviolent religion at its core. Unlike Christianity, it has no just war theory. Both Buddhism and Sufism are helping me to be less of an egoist, since egoism leads to separation, which can lead to harming others. As Brother Jamal teaches us, I hope to transform my ego from a commanding master to a helpful pacifist servant. Got a ways to go with that. I meditate daily. Tonglen meditation is helping me to focus more on the suffering people of the world and to be more loving. We'll try a little Tonglen practice later. I'm trying to cope with life in our hyper-militarist culture. I'm deeply grieving when I consider that not only is war accepted, but often in fact relished. It's upsetting that militarism is the water we swim in. It amazes me that it's not even questioned. But I think and hope that my amazement at that helps to fuel my fervor for nonviolence. I will never again volunteer for a candidate who votes for war. In the midst of my discouragement, I continue to hope for a future of peace. Volunteering for the counter-recruiting program is a way of carrying the nonviolent wisdom forward. I maintain close contact with my young nephew and with our grandchildren, some of whom are willing to be open to my nonviolent orientation. The ICS community is one of the heroes I've been blessed with. The peace and love Kathy and I feel here has caused us to enrich our Sundays, spending half of them here rather than at the cathedral. I don't need to tell all of you about the loving peacefulness of they really are heroes. My wonderful wife, Kathy, has been my hero for more than 40 years now. She is always for the other person. She wakes up that way. I don't know how she does that. She never hurts anyone in any way. I keep trying to model myself on her. Do I really live the nonviolent wisdom I say I want to be a repository for? I would like to ask for your help in continuing to inspire me and in keeping me honest.
Thank you so much. And you can stay there because of our conversation with you. And Max, I think you can, how delightful it has been for me to get to know Max and his story a little bit. There's a little summary of the talk, of some of the highlights of his life in your program if you want to go back over them later, because Max has had, as he said, a really interesting and fascinating journey with his spiritual practices and his life practices. And we are going to he's going to lead us in a Tonglen meditation. But first we'll have a few moments to contemplate what we've heard so far, and Steve will play some music for us to do that. Thank you. So Max has agreed to lead us in a Tonglen meditation, which he will explain to you.
Tonglen meditation is called the sending and taking meditation. It's a type of Tibetan Buddhist meditation in which you give away your happiness and take in so that you may become more compassionate and more aware that we're all in this together. If you're comfortable with it, let's try it for a few minutes. First, if you'd like, close your eyes. Breathe in and out several times, perhaps counting your breaths. Think of what is happy in your life today. Now imagine someone who is suffering. Picture them if you can. It could be someone you know or someone you know about. Now breathe in as deeply as is comfortable. Then breathe out your happiness, your joyful light and love to that suffering person you're picturing. Next, imagine the suffering person's pain. Breathe in their suffering. Relieve them of it for a moment. Then breathe out your happiness to them. Now imagine another person who is suffering. Breathe in their unhappiness, their pain, perhaps with colors that suggest that to you. Relieve them of that for a moment. Now breathe out your happiness and light and joy. Give it to that person. Let them feel good for a moment. Next, simply breathe in and breathe out without thinking about anything for several breaths. And when open your eyes.
It's a beautiful meditation. It's traditional for us and for people to share your responses, your insights, any questions you might have for our speaker. And we will keep the recording on for this, and what I can do is repeat the question that I hear if somebody has it, and then allow Max to answer it into the microphone, if that will be all right with everybody, so that we can maintain certain amount of confidentiality or privacy for those who ask the questions or make the comments, if you don't mind doing it that way, so we can keep the recording on, because this is a time when it enriches our understanding if we can bring sharing to the floor. If anybody thinks of something, why don't you tell me, and then I'll go ahead and say it. Or if you'd like to speak into the microphone, you can do that. Okay.
Thank you. I was going to say that I had a little start when you said we live in a a militarist country, because I guess in my own little world and my friends, I just think of that as being some piece of something, but it makes sense that if I don't do anything about it and look the other way, and that's like, supporting it. And I guess I was surprised at how I've compartmentalized that so much. So I feel like you definitely made a big crack in that. I'm still kind of in a state of shock. And I guess it's a self-protectively painful, and it has totally come into my mind now with our supporting Israel and genocide, and I'm shocked that the world can't do anything about it. But somehow I'm not in that picture. So anyway, thank you.
I would just kind of thinking that the militarist culture, has been successful in having us compartmentalize the awareness of it.
All I could say is wow. Like resonance of American transcendentalists.
Can you say that again, please?
I come from the morphic resonance of American transcendentalists, right? My heroes are Jane Addams, okay? I don't know how to carry on that tradition now. And I'm praying that I get some guidance to show me how. What can you say? Because when you said, take in other people's, give back your joy, I'm kind of down there, and not to the same degree that a majority of the poor people of this world are in, but the ability to create comfort. I can't tell if it's a trap or, if I had prosperity like people of old or coming through this cultural dynamic, I'd be sharing it. I'd be housing people in an ability they could be housed without any stress, because stress breaks people.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you.
I just have a story to share that happened to me Friday. I was driving to Peace Camp, and I have a real hard time seeing people on these different drugs that are around. It's very difficult for me. I cannot feel connected. Different than way back when it used to be alcohol, I could feel connected to the person and have a conversation. But what I see now is very difficult for me. So anyway, I was at the stoplight on Greenwood and 105th, or Holman Road, and there was a man sound asleep on the sidewalk, and I was stopped, and my car was right. He could be dead, and we wouldn't know. Nobody would know. So I really looked at him, and I could see his shoulders moving up and down. And so I said, "Okay, is your chance, like, to do something?" But I discovered what my do something was. And it wasn't, I just connected with his breath. And then that took me, I watched his shoulders go up and down, and the whole time, I'm stopped at the stoplight, and I finally felt connected, because I've been feeling guilty that I haven't felt connected to the human being underneath all the other stuff. And so I connected myself with the breath. That came the deeper realization or whatever, that I said, he is someone's baby. He has a mother. Someone birthed this baby. And then the light turned green. I mean, it's kind of like everything stopped, and then the light turned green, and I was like, okay, now here we are, everybody's driving past this. I don't know what to say about that, but that's just my story. Thank you for listening.
Gretchen, you're reminding me of, I knew a woman who was in theological seminary, and she was, for summer, she was having training in being a pastoral counselor, and she was at a psych hospital. So the first day she goes to the supervisor, and what do you want me to do? He says, I want you to go see Mr. Jones on the 7th floor. So she goes and says hi to him and introduces, and he won't even look at her, he doesn't talk to her, nothing. And she says, so she goes back, he wouldn't talk to me. He says, I know, he hasn't talked to anybody in years. And she said, so why did I go see him? And he ended up by saying, you're going to go see him every day you're here. And she's like, oh. Never does talk to her. Sometimes he glances in her direction. Other times he wanders off into the room. Sometimes goes in. And it becomes her last week of the summer. And she goes to with you. And I hope you do well in the future. But I have to go now. And he says, please don't go.
I've been a pacifist for my life. I've never been in a fight or anything. But there's violence in the world, and people are assaulted physically in the world. And I don't think that I would counsel them not to defend themselves. If they wanted to defend themselves, I think that's their right. And I wouldn't try to tell them that they shouldn't. But that's just my opinion on that. Because it's their body, and they have to make the decision about it. Our bodies are tenuous, and I wouldn't want someone to not defend themselves if they were being physically assaulted. So I just wonder what your opinion is about that.
I will say I did hit somebody once. I was 7 and my brother was 5, and he deserved it, you know. I think my first answer is your point is absolutely valid. If someone came in here and was attacking one of you, I would try to defend you. I think that to say that and to approve of war is a false equivalency.
Hi, Carl. Interesting. I also have 105th Streets. I was tested myself. And this is at 105th North Gateway and Meridian. So I was eastbound on just a normal day when this man walks in third or fourth car back from the intersection, and he's carrying a tree that somebody had cut down. So he carried an entire, if the tree is 16 to 20 feet long with green branches, all the branches were there. The trunk was there. It was as if a car had struck it and snapped it off. It had not been cut, that I could tell. So I thought, how should I react to having this? It took him a while, actually, to get the tree all the way across North Gateway, across the traffic that is now coming the other way, and he made his way across the intersection. So I don't want to describe what I was feeling inside. But yes, that's how I was tested on that road. So, thanks.
Well, just you mentioning the tree, I wanted to mention Joanna Macy, who's a Buddhist eco-warrior, deep ecology kind of person. And I got to do her Council of All Beings, which was similar to Tonglen, but it was for nature, for animals, for the environment. And that was very powerful to, she would go through all the animals that had gone extinct, you know, and you're kind of feeling the pain of that. And I guess that's kind of where my orientation has been, mostly has been environmental things, being a child of the 60s and 70s when the environmental movement was taking off, and kind of was on a program where we were living out of a school bus and backpacking and just really getting connected with nature and the importance of it for our lives. But I kind of had to come full circle, I think, at some point in my life. Became a massage therapist, so have been working with people and bodies. And it kind of balanced my anger at humans for what they have done to the environment. So it's, you know, both are important. And I'm still learning, I guess, that balance of all of that. Yeah.
Did you see that she died this week?
She died recently.
Yeah.
First of all, Max, thanks for being. I wanted to follow up a little bit, sort of a variation on the earlier question. Have you had something in the world, something around you, other than your little brother, that's tested your belief, and how did you think your way through that? I mean, is there something that challenged you process that?
It's a very, very interesting question. For me, there's interpersonal violence on the one hand and war on the other. And I've been very fortunate in my life in terms of the interpersonal. Almost has never come up, and so I've never, except for my brother, I never had to do anything. But the war thing, I guess it's because I don't see them as connected. It would just, I've never thought about any military action being valid. It's just my personal feeling.
But nothing out there that caused you to second guess that or question that.
Well, I'm old enough to remember that phrase where you say, well, everybody's out of step but Jim, you know. and that's very uncomfortable for me because I feel like, most of the people I most admire, whether they're people I know personally or people who are well known or I've read, none of them agree with me on war. Gandhi being and a few others being an exception. So that's really uncomfortable. But still, I just can't get there. I can't get myself to say, yeah, well, sometimes it's okay. I think the one thing that I believe for sure is that any use of violence for whatever reason, whether well-intended or not, the thing you know for sure is that people learn from that and there's going to be another war.
Sometimes I'm just a stick in the mud. So I'm not a Ukrainian. And there's no doubt that Russia invaded Ukraine. And they took over part of their country. And then there was a peace agreement. And then later on, they decided, no, we're going to attack you again. So when you're talking about a country defending itself, I think that country has a right to make its own determination if they're going to allow physical violence to hurt them. So you just move from an individual situation to a group of people, because that's the game in the world. We're all in these countries, and the countries make this determination. So even though I don't like war either, I wouldn't criticize Ukraine for defending themselves. It's not my place. I'm not a Ukrainian. I don't know how I would feel if somebody invaded Seattle and was hurting people, and then people wanted to organize and try to stop that. So just the world, to me, is a very complicated place. And if you look back throughout history, I mean, what's going on in this country right now in our political system is horrible. But this has been the story over and over, all throughout recorded history. Most of the interactions on the planet right now between people are peaceful. I walk around here in this town all over the place. It's peaceful. But violence has always been a part of the human species. So it's a hard nut to crack. But anyway, I wouldn't criticize the Ukrainians, so I'm wondering, how do you feel about the Ukrainians defending themselves with regard to how you implement the philosophy in your life, and whether or not you would go over there and try to dissuade them of using violence to defend themselves?
I think my pacifist stance is a personal stance, and I can't seem to dislodge it from me. But I wouldn't want to tell anybody else, what they should be doing, whether it's Ukrainian or anyone else. So I can't help you very much with that, I think.
No, I wasn't looking for help. I was just curious as to what,
Right.
How you felt about it.
Yeah.
Because we all live in the world and we're aware of these events, so
Yes.
that's
yeah.
all.
I don't have any good answer, I think is what I mean.
So I do have a question. Is your pacifism linked to forgiveness?
I hope so. I think so.
Is it a fundamental tenet for you to forgive before all else? Because that's pertinent to his question.
Yes. I hope that I act that out.
I'm sorry, I don't have a question, and if I'm off base for this, what's happening here, please forgive me.
We forgive you already.
I have another story, and I think when you were asking your question, what was coming up for me was, a lot of things, but one is each of us is a conscience for the other, for the world. And important, like, what you have is what you have, and the world needs that particular conscience as we have all these other things that are happening some. But I want to tell a story. When I was teaching 3rd grade, I love January and February for teaching because January is Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, and February is Black History Month. And I love both of those, the history and everything that's the struggle, what Martin Luther King Jr. represents, and all Gandhi coming with him. So I had this 3rd grade class, and there was one boy, African American, well, actually, African American, his family came from Somalia, and he had a lot of anger, and I knew he pretty much wasn't buying into the peaceful, all those kinds of things. He would listen and everything. And I wanted him to feel included in everything that was being taught. And so at one point, when I was talking about the sit-ins and nonviolent resistance and all of that, I asked the class, I said, raise your hand. I said, not everybody believed. Oh, and I was reading that book, The Children. We've talked about that, about the civil rights movement. And I said, not everybody believed that Martin Luther King Jr. was doing the right thing. Some people disagreed with his approach. And so I asked the kids I was just curious. I said, raise your hand if you believe that Martin Luther King's approach was the best approach. And most of the hands went up. And I said, raise your hand if you believe that they should have used more violence to stand up for their rights. And there were 3 hands, one of them being the boy that I was talking about, 3 hands that went up. And the moment felt important to me because I felt like, just like you want to be heard, so do the people who think differently than what's being taught. So I felt like that was he was heard. And who knows what would happen with that, but I think in the world to be heard and understood, you know that song, "Oh Lord, please don't let me be misunderstood." When you're understood, often that kind of settles the soul or something. Maybe you don't feel like you need to be as violent. Like, okay, I'm going on too long. So pretty soon I'll be sitting up there with you. No. Thank you for listening to me.
You don't want that person to be dismissed. Yes. You know that.
But the people online can't hear you.
No, I was just validating your point, Gretchen, that we all need to be heard and not to be dismissed.
There were a couple of stories of being tested, and I've been lucky enough not to have experienced violence directly in my life. Nobody's ever violated me physically or my loved ones or my children and so on. But I was tested a few years ago as a school teacher, and it was an important moment for me, as some of you have said. I was a middle school teacher, and I was with my classroom. The intercom came on and said, we're locking in place. There's a danger in the building. Please, words that I've luckily forgotten. And my students, who were 6th graders, got into a corner of the room, and they sat down, and I turned off the lights, and I locked the door. I pulled down the shades, and I said, now everybody be quiet. And we didn't know whether there was an intruder with a gun. We didn't know, but we knew it was not a drill. They said, this is not a drill. This is a lockdown. Teachers, this is a lockdown. And we knew what to do, and we did it. And we sat there, and it was totally silent, and the kids were really scared. I just said, let's be quiet and be calm. And I sat in front of them, and I pushed them all behind me. And I started asking myself, what are you going to do when someone enters this room with a gun? And I told myself I would guard and protect as many children as I could and take any bullets that came. And I said to myself, really? And I said to myself, yes. And I started myself praying, because I believe in prayer. And I fervently began to pray that that would not happen, but I knew how my children felt, and I said to them, it's okay, I'm here, we're going to be okay. I didn't know that was true, but I felt they needed to hear it, because that's what I needed to hear. And we got through the incident, but it was an interesting test for me, because I heard this dialogue in my head. Okay, Sally Jo, what are you going to do? I guess I'm glad that I didn't think about picking up a weapon and going and attacking the person. I thought about how many kids can I lay myself across? And, we were all scooted together. So I don't know what that means. All I know is that we will all be tested, and we are all being tested. At times we may not even realize it. And that's the moment we need to be waiting for and ready for, as other people have said. There's a moment at which you ask yourself, who am I? And we have to answer that question. So thank you so much, Max, for helping us examine this question. Who are we really, and what do we really believe? And how does that reflect on everybody else who believes around us and who is around us? And how do we impact each other? How can we support each other, etc.? So I think that's been really wonderful discussion, and I appreciate your having the courage to bring us all together to focus on this subject and think about it in our daily lives, because violence is everywhere. And we may live in a peaceful home in a peaceful city, but violence is everywhere. And even when I raise my voice at my sister, who hasn't hurt me, I know I'm approaching violence if I don't calm myself back down again. And so I think it's just a process that we can all become more and more aware of, and learn more about ourselves and learn more of these practices that will give us the tools we need is best to do. And I thank you all for engaging in this exploration. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you kindly, and you would have had cause for far more applause, except because what I really wanted to talk about is my real hero, who's sitting right there. But I knew that I would be in deep trouble when I got home if I did that. So.
Additional practices here, and we're going to pass the plate around, and we're going to say thank you to the people out there in the cyberspace who are able to donate online and go to our website and share with us if they feel so inclined. And these donations help to preserve and take care of all the work that goes on around here, and keeping a safe place for us to gather. And we do gather many times a week here, not just on Sundays, but on every day of the week. There are classes, there are workshops, there are meditation groups that meet. You can find online our upcoming gatherings every week. You can sign up to get a reminder on Monday morning about what's coming up. And you can see the scheduling of the timing. Some of the groups meet online in a Zoom format. Some meet in person. Some do hybrid and have both. There are prayer groups. There is, as I said, a Thursday meditation. And we also there are also some special events that come up from time to time. And Peace Camp International is going on in the coming week. And the public is always invited. All of us are invited to come and observe what's going on at Peace Camp, especially Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock when we have our talent show, and the kids get to really stand up here and share what they've been doing all week and how they've been interacting. They're singing, they're dancing, their instruments. We had a whole band up here Friday with a beautiful rendition of the Star Wars theme, because one of the students, it was his favorite song, and they wanted to play it for him especially, Elliot. And so we had a beautiful different ways that you can enjoy and share with the children and teenagers who come, and these what I call the future leaders of our culture are really the young kids who start out 4 years old and they grow up and get bigger and bigger and help us run the world. So please join us for any Speak to You, the Medicine Circle with the Sisiwis Medicine Circle, from that to A Course in Miracles and many other events that happen during the week. And so with that, I also want to mention, we're talking, Isla has brought up, and Peace Mandala, that we're thinking about how we might get a circle, beautiful, earthbound mandala that we can create as a community, and we will see if we get enough people interested, or we might have our retreats. But let Isla know by email if you got her email, or if you want to speak to her personally. Isla, just raise your hand. And then if you're interested in that, we'll get that going too. So we love creative ideas and ways that people can get together and really Monday is our guest worship, and we have Rabbi Olivia Benheim from Bet Aleph Meditation Synagogue coming to us for next Sunday. We have our guiding council meeting after the service next Sunday, and we would love for people to come for both of those, for the presentation and also for the guiding council meeting, to hear more about what we're doing in the community. Are there any other announcements that I might have forgotten? I know we're still collecting eyeglasses for the clinic in Bangladesh. I know that Isu's leaving soon. She has a bunch of them, but she might be able to take more if you have any eyeglasses. Maybe she's leaving before next Sunday, though, I think. She might be going soon. Yes?
There are detaining Sikhs at the detention center in Tonglen, and there are people going in to counsel, but nobody will counsel the women. Somebody who can do that as a service is desperately.
When you say counsel, do you mean legal counsel or social?
Visit.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'm not sure about the Sikh religion, but they're pretty segregated in what they allow to happen between genders. And that's causing a problem about support.
I know someone who you might want to contact.
Could you ask them to consider, the detention center? I mean, I heard about this and I was so disturbed by it. I'm passing it on.
Do you have particular names? Because the person I'm thinking of manages volunteers to go and visit people at detention centers. So if she knew of any names, for instance.
No, I heard about this who was down there volunteering, but he could only access the men.
So it was the ICE detention center? So maybe that's, Max, but ICE detention center in Tacoma. There's probably only one.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have